Hi guys, welcome back to another episode of Good Book Hunting. My name is Gretchen. I'm the Digital Services Librarian here at the Westfield Athenaeum. And we're super excited to show you guys how to use more resources to find more books that are just like the most requested books here that you are waiting for. So, you know, you're probably on one of these lists waiting for this book to come in and you want to read another book like it in the meantime. Well, we are going to help you find books that might be good read-alikes or might not be. Either way, we're going to have some fun and find you some books. So in this round of 4, I will be using good old Google because it might be the first thing you do when you're like, what is a book like? This book is you just go to Google, and I'm going to talk you through the different things that I might look at as a librarian if that was going to be what I was going to do, looking up something for you here at the library. And then Olivia will be using the familiar C.W. Mars catalog. Erica will be using our favorite resource, NoveList. Not that we're biased or anything. And Anne will be using a resource that in particular the adult circulation librarians love to use called FantasticFiction. So each Friday this month, one of us will show you a resource, but today you get to see me using good old Google. So today we are going to use Google to find read-alikes for the new David Baldacci that so many of you are waiting for. This is David Baldacci's Daylight, and it is the 3rd book in the Atlee Pine series. If you don't know what that means at all or what kind of books that we're looking for, it seems like this is a mystery thriller. FBI agent Atlee Pine, search for her sister Mercy, clashes with military investigator John Puller's high-stakes case, leading them both into a global conspiracy from which neither of them will escape unscathed. So, again, David Baldacci, even if you've never read a book by him, you probably know something based on his name. And again, I will be using just a straight up Google search to try to find read-alikes for this book, while my coworkers do the same on their end. So here we go. Okay, so the first obvious thing that we're going to do here on Google is just Google it. And instead of just Googling Daylight by David Baldacci, because that's just going to get me, you know, an Amazon link or a Barnes & Noble link, we're going to do books like David Baldacci Daylight and see what comes up. So the first thing Google is going to give you is people also search for, and this is related to Google Books, which we did another video where Anne so kindly showed us how that works. So do check our backlog for that if you're interested. But the thing about this people also search for is that these are all just David Baldacci books for the most part. We do have a couple of them in here that aren't, but you know, I don't know what algorithm Google is using to give me some of these titles, but it's a good place to start. As we scroll down, you're going to get ads. Those are just going to lead you to places to buy different books. And then we are also going to get the Google Books information for Daylight over here. So in case you're wondering what the genres are, thriller, mystery, suspense, crime fiction, you know, you have some different information there. So one of the first thing that comes up is a Goodreads list for authors similar to David Baldacci. So let's just open this up and see how good this list is. Again, we have showed you how Goodreads works in another video, so you can go check that out. But these aren't really books, but they are similar authors. So John Grisham, Nelson DeMille, Jeffrey Deaver, Scott Turow, James Patterson. These are some fairly familiar names that might help you. And here on Goodreads, you can click their books to see a list of them. But again, these aren't books like Daylight. So let's keep going. I'm going to skip the Amazon listing because I know what that's going to give me. It's just going to say, buy this book on Amazon, which is not going to help us. This is really interesting. Which David Baldacci book should you read first? I'm not familiar with this website, but look at this. Novel suspects lining up the best in mystery and thriller. Interesting. So this website seems to be focused on mysteries and thrillers. So it's got a list of other David Baldacci titles to start with. Well, thanks. That's not really helpful either. Here is one of our many beloved websites here. This is called Book Riot. And were I doing this for myself, I would definitely click on the Book Riot link. And again, this is 11 authors like David Baldacci. It's a new article from June 10th. You know what? I really like this list. Because look at this. It's already saying there's a list on authors like John Grisham as well. So it suggests Alex Segura, who was a novelist and comic book writer, and suggests Alex Segura's book, Silent City. It also suggests Rachel Howzell Hall, because Daylight has a female protagonist, and Rachel Howzell Hall also has a female protagonist who is a homicide detective. I do know that quite a few of these authors, they have male protagonists, so this might be really interesting if you're looking for that. So we first find her in Land of Shadows. So that would be your book to start with if you want that. It also suggests Keigo Higashino, who is an award-winning Japanese author, the author of The Devotion of Suspect X, which stars a physicist who helps his friend and detective with difficult cases. That sounds really interesting, and I've never heard of these top 3 authors, which I think is also, you know how this list is not just getting you what's most popular. Speaking of what's most popular, you've got Lee Child, who writes about Jack Reacher. The first book in that series is The Killing Floor. That might be more familiar to you. And then number 5 on this list is Tracy Clark, the author of the Cass Rains series. And again, this is another female lead in a series that starts in the book Broken Places. Cass Rains is a private investigator and former cop trying to live a quiet life after getting shot on the job. I really like Book Riot lists, and so if I were trying to find you something, I would probably use this list. And again, it does keep going, but we're just going to focus on the top 5 just so we don't go on forever. But again, sometimes you might not know just what to do on a huge Google search. Do try to search books like David Baldacci Daylight, not just David Baldacci Daylight. You're still going to get some of these pages that just want you to buy it. You can skip those. Things like Book Riot, Which Book Next, and Goodreads lists are excellent places to start your search with Google. All right, so now we're back, and we have kind of seen me kind of jump all over the place a little bit. But speaking of jumping all over the place in series, Anne, would you like to talk about what Fantastic Fiction found for you?
Absolutely. Fantastic Fiction is a site that actually comes from England, but they tend to list nonfiction books, and you can search them by author, by book, or by series, which for a lot of Baldacci's, Grisham's, you know, the series go on, and you can tell when you go to the author's page, you know, the series takes up like most of your computer screen, showing all the covers of the books. But we do use it a lot in the adult circulation because it's an easy way to find out. People will often ask, I just finished the 15th, what's the next one? So it's a quick source for that. But this time I just went by book. So I went by David Baldacci's Daylight, and it gave me a list of books with Daylight in them. Of course, Baldacci's was the first, and then there was James Bond, and on went the various books. But when you click on Daylight, it lists, you know, that you can buy it on Amazon. it lists the summary of the book, like it does on a lot of these. But the only just sort of classification that it gives is a mystery. But then it gives similar books by other authors. And the list is actually not bad. So the first one that they recommend is Michael Connelly, The Law of Innocence, another mystery, and sort of similar sort of quality. So it's a good choice. You can simply click on the page and it will tell you it's a mystery, but it doesn't give any more sort of clues as to why they've connected these. You can also read the summaries on Fantastic Fiction. The next book that they have is Harlan Coben's Win, another mystery. And again, that's all the information they give you in terms of how it connects, but if you read the summaries, you'll find out that they're similar. Next one is John Grisham, A Time for Mercy, Grisham's latest novel. And again, it's another mystery, another legal thriller, so related. And the last recommendation, they only give 4 recommendations on NoveList, so sorry ladies, I get to type less. In a moment. And the last one they give is Lisa Gardner, Before She Disappeared. And again, it's a legal sort of mystery thriller. But if you go to these different pages, you'll find all 4 books on the same, you might find one different, but it just goes, they're connected. So that's it from this end, Gretchen.
So yeah, it's kind of weird sometimes, and this is what you often worry about with an author like Baldacci, who is so well known and I think ensconced in a very specific like genre horde with like David Baldacci, Michael Connelly, James Patterson, Lee Child. Like these are some really huge names who write similar but different books, and so you really worry, I hope I don't get caught in this loop. And it seems like Fantastic Fiction, which is what Anne just used, is maybe a little caught in that loop. You definitely saw some of those big names. So I quite liked the Book Riot list. But Olivia, why don't you tell us how you searched in the catalog, and did it give you people who were not Michael Connelly?
Yeah, so I did use the catalog, and for Daylight, I chose to search by genre and chose the detective and mystery fiction genre because I felt it was most closely related to what the summary was like that Gretchen explained. I did get a few different authors, some similar, a few that I'm not so sure how close of a book it is, but one of them is His and Hers by Alice Feeney, The Dark Corners of the Night by Meg Gardner, When You See Me, a novel by Lisa Gardner, Death by Chocolate Frosted Donut by Sarah Graves, and The Goodbye Man by Jeffrey Deaver. So we didn't get any Michael Connelly, but I'm not so sure about the Death by Chocolate Frosted Donut really working for detective and mystery, or it's not going to be a hard boil, it's definitely your cozy mystery, but nonetheless still a mystery, and somebody does die by chocolate, so also a death. So that is what I found with the catalog.
I find it really interesting that even though you just use the detective and mystery like genre tag, it gave you almost all female authors. And when I think of like hard-boiled detective, I do think of these like big name authors who are male. And I don't know if it's connected at all to the fact that Daylight has a female lead. Like, I don't think the catalog would have made that connection, but it seems really interesting that that's what that list gave back. So anyway, maybe I'm just thinking the catalog is smarter than it is. We don't know. So Erica, round us off with a NoveList, which actually tells you why these books are connected in more than just one way.
So with NoveList, a lot of times with NoveList, I find myself getting authors that I don't know, just because I'm not super familiar with a whole bunch of authors. So I was really interested to see that I did actually get some big name books on this list. And unlike Fantastic Fiction, NoveList does tell you more or less why they're similar. Sometimes it's a lot more like personalized for the book, and then other times it's just kind of like an auto-generated oh, these have the same tags, or this series is similar to this series, and we did get a good number of those this time around. So the first one is Strong Enough to Die by John Land. It's Caitlin Strong novels. I guess that's a series, and that's apparently a similar series to the Atlee Pine novels. The next one was The Silent Corner by Dean Koontz, which again is a similar series, the Jane Hawk novels. Then we have Fever Dream by Douglas Preston. And these are similar in tone. They're suspenseful, gritty, and fast-paced. They're thrillers and suspenseful. They have women FBI agents, government investigators, and secrets, and have characters that are brooding. We have Never Tell by Lisa Gardner. Again, this is just kind of an auto-generated one. They're both suspenseful and fast-paced, and they're thrillers and suspenseful, and they have secrets, and again, characters that are brooding. And then we do have Lee Child, The Hard Way by Lee Child, another Jack Reacher book. So we do have actually a little bit of overlap, and that's fun that we finally have some overlap. These books are suspenseful, they're thrillers, they have kidnapping victims, kidnappers, and conspiracies, and they have characters that are brooding and flawed. So mostly just kind of similar tone across the board, nothing really personalized as to why it might be similar, which to me is definitely one of my favorite aspects of NoveList, is that kind of more personalized description. So it's kind of a little bit of a bummer to me that it's just kind of like, oh, this novel series is similar to this novel series. But I mean, if they're similar, they're similar.
I think in this case, one of the best things is that some of our there was some overlap, you know, because it's always not that you have to look at multiple places, but that's kind of why we do this, to see which resource is better than the other, but also if there is some overlap, because Lisa Gardner, you know, Michael Connelly, Lee Child, all of these people have showed up on multiple lists here. And so obviously there's something really strong in all of the algorithms of the different sites that we just use that say, hey, these are a good place to start. So, you know, novelists might have you thinking like, I mean, do I really want a brooding character? But there also might be some other stuff in there, clearly, because I did not Google, you know, books with brooding characters. Like there's also other stuff in there. So hopefully this has given you an awesome list of books. Don't worry about writing them down. They will all be up in the video's description or down sideways, depending on where you're seeing this on Facebook. It kind of goes all the way around the circle. And of course, please feel free to request the book that caught your fancy through either Library to Go or the catalog, and we will get that for you, and maybe you can use one of these resources to help you out on your next book search. So happy book hunting, and we'll see you next time. Bye.